All right, and welcome in, everybody. Hope you all are having a fantastic, fantabulous, awesome freaking day. My name is Garrett Shoemaker, and this is the Shoemaker Take. Today, we head down to the city of jazz, the city of homemade beignets from Cafe du Monde, the famous muffaletta sandwich. I'm talking about New Orleans. I'm talking about the Saints, and how the Saints ain't gonna be that good this year, unfortunately, despite everything great that is in New Orleans. Man, that sucks, because New Orleans, I've been to New Orleans a couple times, and it's a fantastic city. Great food, great music, great drinks. It's a great time. It's a great time to go out there for a few days, just enjoy all those things. It's fantastic. I love it. I love New Orleans. Can't wait to go back, but I'm not going to New Orleans to see the Saints anytime soon, at least for right now, because the Saints, like I said, are not going to be good this year, I think. But before we jump in to the 2025 preview series video talking about this team, if you guys know how this works, the timestamp is in the video description, so go ahead and knock yourself out. But for those of you that do not know how this series works, here is what we're breaking down. We're going to briefly recap 2024 and what happened with each team season, what was their record, and then after that, we'll jump into the offseason, look at any notable offseason news. Was there any coaching changes, notable players that got extended or re-signed, stuff like that. Then we'll look at free agency, who each team brought in, who they lost. We'll break down each pick in each team's draft. And then after that, I will talk about the schedule. I decided I'm going to do a little bit of a flip. Normally, it's how do I feel about the team, and then we do the schedule. I think I might flip that for this division, for the NFC South, just to see how I feel about it. So expect that to maybe flip-flop. I don't know. But for right now, we'll talk about, after we look at the draft, we'll look at the schedule. And then after that, I'll pretty much give you my overall thoughts on how I feel about each team. Are they going to be good? Are they going to be bad? Mid? What are some strengths? What are some weaknesses? And after that, we'll wrap a bow on the whole thing, talking about some storylines that I'll be looking for in 2025. So for the New Orleans Saints, getting into them now, 2024 was a disaster. It was an outright disaster. They finished 5-12, and after starting super hot, they dropped 40 points in the first two games. They was on Dallas, and then the other team was Cleveland, I think. But they absolutely beat the living daylights out of their opponents. Looked amazing on both sides of the ball. And then after that, they fell off a cliff. They didn't just fall off a cliff. They nosedived off of it. They just stood over and just went and pencil dived straight head first into the water without checking how deep it was. And turns out it was pretty shallow, and they broke their necks pretty quickly, because Dennis Allen was fired in week 6, week 7, maybe week 8. Before the halfway point of the season, he was the second coach fired after Robert Saleh from the Jets. And the Saints season was just, like I said, was a disaster. They also dealt with a lot of injuries. Wide receiver, their receiving core fell apart. Their cornerback room fell apart. It was a mess. It was an absolute mess. It was a disaster. And so now there's a lot of newness with the New Orleans Saints, and rightfully so, because they needed to go in a new direction. Dennis Allen proved that he was not the answer. I never thought he would be. He was a great defensive mind, but as a head coach, he has a proven track record of him not being successful. Take a look at how he did when he was with the head coach of the Oakland Raiders at the time. But so he's fired. But who did they bring in to replace him? Former Eagles offensive coordinator Kellen Moore. I like this hire a lot, because I'm a guy that naturally, I'm just on the side of young offensive-minded head coaches. I think that's the direction that you need to go in if you're rebuilding a franchise in the NFL now. I think that's the best thing, because not only is he young, modern, forward-thinking, stuff like that, but also you want an offensive-minded head coach to work with a young quarterback. So that way, when the quarterback is good and the offensive production is good, the coordinator doesn't leave to go be a head coach, so you retain a lot of continuity. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. But Kellen Moore, like the hire, coming off of a Super Bowl win in Philly, kind of wish he would have stayed. But I get wanting to take the next step in your career and taking over as the head coach of the Saints. And they brought in former Eagles quarterback coach Doug Nussmeier to be his offensive coordinator. I like the move. Just bring in a guy that that you have experience with, that can help teach the scheme, coach it up. A lot of continuity there. Like it. And then they brought in Brandon Staley, the former Chargers head coach, to be their defensive coordinator. I like this move a lot. When he was the defensive coordinator in LA with the Rams, he was fantastic. fantastic. A fantastic defensive coordinator, terrible head coach, but he can run a defense. Let me tell you something. If you guys don't remember how good the Rams defense was under Brandon Staley when they made the Super Bowl run, oh yeah, they were good. They were really, really good. And so bringing him in as the defensive coordinator, like it a lot. Also has a connection with Kellen Moore because they coached together in Los Angeles with the Chargers. Kellen Moore was the OC. Like I mentioned, Staley was the head coach. So along with some other head coaches, or other coaches, who's not head coaches, other coaches, I thought they did an okay job at bringing in some new guys in here, some fresh minds, young minds as well. And now they have a new framework to build their roster. And the two notable re-signings that they made, I thought about putting it here, but I decided to make it apparent because other than that, there wasn't a lot of offseason news for the Saints outside of the new coaching changes, but they re-signed Juwan Johnson. They re-signed Chase Young, their edge rusher. Fine by me. Juwan Johnson, he's a good tight end. Makes sense. Chase Young, you probably could have gotten somebody else, in my opinion, but it was his first year in New Orleans. They seem to really like him, so who am I to really judge it so far? We'll have to see how he progresses. But let's look at their free agency because they did a little bit more than what the Saints normally do. As you guys know, the Saints they have the worst salary cap situation in the NFL over the past couple of years. I thought they should have already fired their GM, but they haven't, and he continues to drive this team financially into the dirt. So for once, they were actually able to do a couple things. They brought in Cam Akers at running back to provide depth. I like this. Brought back Brandon Cooks. There's a reunion there, but Brandon Cooks at this point, he's a veteran. He did not play well last year. I don't know how much of an impact he's honestly going to make, but it is important. It's a good note, reunion. Then they brought in a couple offensive linemen, brought in a tight end to provide depth. And the defensive side brought in a lot of depth on their defensive line. Jonathan Bullard, Chris Rump, Jonah Williams, all guys that'll provide solid depth for them. And then they brought in two safeties, Justin Reed and Julian Blackmon, to be starters for them. Julian Blackmon did he come from the Cowboys or come from the Colts? No, I think he came from the Colts. I could be wrong on that. Don't at me. But Justin Reed came from the Kansas City Chiefs, was a free agent. They signed a 3-year deal, I'm pretty sure. They also brought in corner Isaac Yiadom, who was there in San Francisco for a while. So they got in some good players on defense on the back end to help them contribute. And you look at their losses, and, well, things are a little interesting. Obviously, on the offensive side, you see the big one, losing Derek Carr. He ended up retiring. That is unfortunate, but Saints fans were very up and down about Derek Carr, and he was up and down in his time in New Orleans. He was a veteran, not really a game changer anymore like he used to be when he was early on with the Raiders, but he brought them some stability. He was fine. It's just now they were forced to go into a new direction with him retiring. He had some really bad injuries. It made sense for him to retire, honestly. So congratulations to him for a great career. I made a whole video talking about that months ago. But they also lost wide receiver Marquez Valdez-Scantling, marked MVS there in the graphic. Just chose to write MVS because the name was way too long to fit in properly. But Marquez Valdez-Scantling played pretty well, surprisingly, for the Saints. Kind of bounced around a little bit. Couldn't really find a role on a team. But then found the Saints, came out of nowhere, had a couple 100-yard games, played well. And now he is with the Seattle Seahawks, who we'll talk about later on in the series. And then on the defensive side, they lost Willie Gay at linebacker. He was okay for them. And then Paulson Adebo ended up signing a 3-year deal with the Giants. He was good for them last year. Pretty sure he's one of the guys that stayed healthy. I could be wrong on that, but he was pretty good for the Saints. And then Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger, ended up retiring right before training camp started. That's unfortunate. Tyrann Mathieu's a really good safety. Bounced around the league a little bit over the years, but he's been good. He's been really good, so congratulations to him on a really good career, and may his future endeavors be as fruitful as his NFL career. And they also lost safety Will Harris, who's in there in the rotation as well. So they lost a decent amount on defense. Offense wasn't a whole lot, but the defensive side definitely had its fair share of losses. But then you look at their draft, and their draft, I thought, was pretty promising. They got some really good guys, really loaded up on defense for the majority of this draft. They went offense with their first 2 picks, but defense was the important thing on this group. The defense last year for New Orleans was not very good. Not very good at all. Their run defense was horrible. Their pass rush was meh. And when the secondary got hurt and people started going down, it just made things that much worse. But we got to start with the offensive side, because their first round pick was Kelvin Banks Jr., the left tackle out of the University of Texas. I really like this pick a lot. Kelvin Banks is similar to Will Campbell, where their arms are short arms, where some people would think they'd be better suited to play guard. Kelvin Banks, like Will Campbell, knows how to compensate for that deficiency. He plays very strong, very fluid. He can bend a bunch of different ways to contort and compete with edge rushers coming at him from all different directions. He's got big, strong hands, and once he gets his hands on a defender, the play's over. He's not getting nowhere. And I just really like his size and athleticism. I think he can be a really good tackle in the NFL. They're going to give him a shot right away to start at left tackle. He's a top 10 pick. He has the potential for it. I really like this pick. Was it the pick that I thought was going to happen? No, I didn't think they were going to pick Kelvin Banks, but it was a possibility. And at the same time, it is a responsible one. They need better offensive line play going forward. That's why they drafted offensive tackle in back-to-back drafts. And then you look at Tyler Shuck, the quarterback out of Louisville in the second round, and there's no other way around it. I do not like this pick at all. I don't like it. Tyler Shuck, if you guys don't know, he was Justin Herbert's backup at Oregon when he was at the University of Oregon, and then went to another school before going to Louisville. Didn't have a lot of experience starting, despite the fact that he's been in college for so long, and has an extensive injury history. He's an older prospect. And if you want to talk about the football, just the football stuff, in his last year at Louisville, he was fine. He's good arm talent. He's strong in the pocket, although when things really break down and pressure gets in his face, he gets happy feet. He gets inaccurate, definitely suffers from getting a lot of pressure because of those injuries that he's had. And quite frankly, he kind of shot up draft boards last minute. No one was really talking about this guy until like 2 weeks before the draft. And I'm not gonna be the guy to go there, or I should say I don't want to go there, but I'm gonna go there. I'm sorry. Shedeur Sanders is objectively a better prospect than Tyler Shuck in so many different ways. I mean, I'm not gonna break it down. I've already kind of explained about what Shedeur Sanders is, and compared to Tyler Shuck, Shedeur Sanders is a much better prospect. I'm sorry, he is. The only thing Tyler Shuck has over Shedeur Sanders is arm talent. Fine, but everything else, Shedeur Sanders does better. But I'll say this, Tyler Shuck did look fine in the preseason. So there, if you want credit, there you go. He looked good. But Tyler Shuck, I don't like it. It didn't make much sense anyways because they already have Spencer Rattler. And in my opinion, why would you draft a quarterback in the second round, something like Tyler Shuck, who is older, who has injury issues, instead of just rolling with Spencer Rattler, who's younger, has more upside, has more physical tools, and see what you have. And then if it doesn't work out, you get a top pick in the draft and you swing at one of the top and one of the most projected stacked quarterback classes we've seen in a long time. Guys like DJ Lagway, guys like Lenoris Sellers, guys like Cade Klubnik, for example, are going to be in this next year's draft class. And quite frankly, I would have any of those, even right now, over Tyler Shuck. And even Spencer Rattler. And it's in a similar situation like the Tennessee Titans. You could have just stuck with Spencer Rattler, and if he's good, then he's good. But if he sucks, then you get a top draft pick, and then like the Titans, you get Cam Ward, and you get an upgrade. So I don't like that they drafted Tyler Shuck because they have Spencer Rattler. Like I said, doesn't make much sense when you already have a younger, in my opinion, more talented quarterback on the roster, when you could just see what he has, and if he sucks, then guess what? You get another year to get your franchise quarterback and do it all over again and go into a rebuild the proper way. Not that this was the improper way anyways, but it just doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't like the prospect. I'm not excited about Tyler Shuck. I'm sorry, I'm not. I mean, he can always prove me wrong, but I'm just not excited at all. And then you look at Vernon Broughton in the third round, things start to look up a little bit more, because Vernon Broughton, one other interior defensive lineman out of Texas that they have churned out, that position for them has become an NFL factory as of late, and he is a really good run-stuffing defensive tackle. The Saints need this. Their run defense has been awful. Brian Brzee has not been good in the run game, despite that's what he was drafted for. Has he developed as a pass rusher? Sure, he's been a pretty solid pass rusher, but as a run defender, he's been awful. And Vernon Broughton is going to come in here, and he is going to be just that. He's good at shedding blocks. He's got outstanding arm length. He can take on double teams like it's nobody's business. He is going to be in the middle there, stuffing the run, and it's going to allow these pass rushers that aren't really that great anyways for New Orleans to have more opportunities. So if Vernon Broughton's good as a rookie, that should give this defensive line a big, big, big boost. So I'm excited for this pick. And then Jonas Sanker is another one I'm excited about. Safety out of Virginia. He's got good tools. Really physical as well. Really physical and quick in the run game. Isn't afraid to get downhill, closes gaps quickly, reads the quarterback's eyes well in coverage as well. He's got all the talent there to be a starter and have some upside. He's going to be in the rotation, probably the third safety now as a rookie. But after Julian Blackmon or Justin Reed leaves, he'll probably take their spot and continue to start there at that point. And then you look at Danny Stutzman in the 4th round. He's another downhill player, another guy that's good in the run game. That's a common theme here with these last 3 picks, is that they're good against the run. This makes a lot of sense for the Saints. And like I said, gets downhill. He uses his hands pretty well as well. Compared to other linebackers, he can slip blocks. He's active with them. And he has the potential to develop more into a coverage player as well. He's shown some good signs, but that does need a lot of work for Stutzman. But if he can develop that, he could become a really good linebacker for the Saints potentially, replacing Demario Davis, who's getting up there in age. And then you look at Louisville corner, Quincy Riley, Tyler Shuck's teammate, 5'11", 194, not a big guy, but don't let that fool you. He is physical. He'll get up there. He's not afraid of physicality. He's good in zone. He's got good speed and good recovery and ball tracking skills. And despite his small hands, he's got really good hands too. He's had a couple games where he made some really, really good interceptions that were long, athletic, and quite frankly, playing bigger than what his size was. And so a guy like that is going to provide depth. He's going to provide some physicality and some juice. And the cornerback position out of Louisville has produced some pretty solid corners as of late. So that's exciting. And then you look at Devin Neal in the 6th round out of Kansas, the first Kansas running back to get multiple consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. Goes to show how disappointing the Kansas Jayhawk football program has been historically. But they've been pretty good. They've been pretty solid as of late. But Devin Neal, kind of an all-around back. He's a little bit smaller in terms of height, but he's 213 pounds. He's elusive, makes defenders miss. He's patient as well, letting his blockers set themselves up. But also he provides some good utility out of the backfield as a pass catcher. He's dangerous because of his speed, but also does a pretty good job in pass protection as well. He's willing to. He puts in good effort. And so you want a good all-around utility back to go behind Alvin Kamara. So Alvin Kamara can just do what Alvin Kamara does. What you've given the ball to him in space, and he cooks. And Alvin Kamara has not been as explosive as he has been as a couple of years ago, 3 years ago-ish. So you want a guy like Devin Neal to back him up, take a little bit of pressure off, and can do a little bit of everything. So Alvin Kamara's job is a lot easier. And then you get to a developmental prospect, Maliki Motavo, tight end, really good route runner for his size, good hands, finds soft spots in the zones, but he needs to develop as a blocker. And being 6'6", 260 pounds, you need to be able to block. And so they're going to take a chance on him, see if he can develop into a more fully fledged, well-rounded tight end. He's got the opportunity to do it. We'll see. But he is in behind a really stacked tight end room. So there's going to be fighting for a roster spot if he wants to, and probably play special teams if he wants to make the roster. But he's got a lot of upside. I like it. And then Thaddeus Diggs, the edge rusher out of Syracuse in the 7th round, had a really good 40 time at the combine. But a lot of people say that his stats didn't match his production on tape. So there is a little bit of a disconnect there, it seems to be. But he's got good speed, gets off the edge pretty well, pretty quickly, can shed blocks pretty efficiently. We'll just have to see what he does. He's going to be fighting for a roster spot at the end, probably going to play some teams. But, sorry, I had two elongated sneezes right there. But that does conclude the draft class. And overall, I do like this draft class. On offense, Kelvin Banks, I think, can be a really good franchise tackle for the New Orleans Saints. And while Tyler Shuck, I do not like the pick of Tyler Shuck. It is what it is. And then Vernon Broughton, Jonas Sanker, Danny Stutzman, all guys that are good in the run game, which you want to see that. Considering how bad the Saints run game was last year, they're investing into players that are good at it. I like that. I really, really like that because it shows that they're aware of what was wrong and they're committed to fixing those problems. That's very encouraging. That's good process, which is exciting. And then you get a couple guys like Quincy Riley, Devin Neal that can do some things for you that as a backup will provide good depth for now. And then you got some good dart throws at the end of it. And one thing too with Tyler Shuck, I get that Tyler Shuck is more of the mold of Justin Herbert for when, Kellen Moore was with the Chargers, but coming from Philly, why wouldn't you draft Jalen Milroe? I'm sorry, Jalen Milroe could have gone here in the second round, and I would have been excited about it because he's got great arm talent. He can run. He can make all the throws. He's got the arm talent for it. There's a lot more upside with a guy like Jalen Milroe. Not to mention that he's a great leader. He's a great locker room guy. Not saying Tyler Shuck isn't. He is actually. But Jalen Milroe, coming from Philly, I thought that would have made a little bit more sense given that Jalen Hurts is also that dual threat archetype. But Tyler Shuck, it is what it is. That's all I can really say. I don't like the pick. I don't like it at all. And given that the Saints need stability at quarterback, Tyler Shuck, I don't think can give them stability. So, excuse me, we'll have to see. But then we look at their schedule, and the schedule is tough. Not very many teams, to me, they're going to be able to compete with. And one of them, thankfully, is at the beginning of the year. Week 1 against the Arizona Cardinals at home, so that's encouraging. But that's going to be a competitive game. I think the Cardinals are going to be in a similar-ish spot to the New Orleans Saints. I don't think the Cardinals are going to be awful, but they're not going to be very good either, which for reasons I'll explain when we get to that video. And then week 2, you're at home against the San Francisco 49ers. That's a competitive game, but I think the Saints are better. And then on the road against Seattle, that's another tough one. Marquez Valdes-Scantling going up against his former team will be interesting. And then week 4 against Buffalo on the road, that's a loss. Week 5 against the Giants, you're back home. I think that's a game that you can win. Jameis Winston will be going up against his former team, although Russell Wilson's going to be starting, I think, probably. So unless he doesn't get hurt, or unless he gets hurt. But then week 6, the Patriots, that's going to be a game that could be won, but I think the Patriots are better. And then week 7 against Chicago Bears, I think the Bears should win this game, but I don't know why. I look at this game on the schedule and something tells me that the Saints are going to pull something out of their butt and upset the Bears. I don't know why. I just have a weird feeling about this game in particular that that's going to happen. And so if we look back on this in week 7 and that's what ends up happening, I'm going to take a little bit of a victory lap because the premonition of that here months before is crazy. Because I did the schedule prediction video, but I did my schedule prediction to make this videos months ago. So at this point, it's probably going to be like 6 or 7 months since I've had this premonition since it came up originally. So if that actually happens, that's going to be pretty funny. And then you get your first divisional game of the year, week 8 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at home. Bucs are going to be a really good football team this year. Considering how badly the Bucs beat the Saints both times, I think the Bucs are going to do a similar thing and win that one. And then on the road against the Rams, another really good football team. That's tough. And then you go on the road to face the Carolina Panthers. This is a winnable game. The Panthers are not as good as the Falcons. They're not as good as the Bucs. Do I think they're a better football team? Yes. But it's not out of the realm of possibilities that the Saints could pull off a win here. So it's doable. And then week 11, you got a bye week a little bit later, which is fine. And then off the bye week, you're at home to face the Falcons. That's another winnable game coming off your bye week against a divisional opponent. That should be a competitive game. And then week 13 against Miami, that one, they're going to win. Even though I have the Dolphins winning only 6 games, seeing this defense trying to go up against Miami, that's a nightmare waiting to happen. And then you go on the road to face Tampa once again. So you're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4. You got 4 division games in 6. Make that 5 and 7 if you count week 15 right after it at home against the Carolina Panthers. That's a tough stretch. It's a doable stretch because of all your divisional opponents, but it is a tough stretch nonetheless. And then week 16 at home against the Jets. I think by this point, the Jets are going to be better than what they were at the start of the year. They probably win this game. And then week 17, you're on the road against the Titans. My opinion, as a Titans fan, the Titans are going to win this game, but that is one of the easier opponents on the Saints' schedule, considering the Titans only won 3 games last year, so I would not hold it past my own team to lose against the New Orleans Saints. And then you go on the road to close against the Atlanta Falcons. And so, like I said, the schedule is tough. They don't have a lot of teams that they're going to compete with, really. And their most important matchups to me, if you just give me 1 second, I'm sorry as I get back to my script. The Cardinals, the Giants, Jets, Titans. Maybe you pull off one divisional win in there, maybe two if you're lucky. The Saints are just, I'm sorry, I just don't think they're going to be very good this year. I don't. I simply don't. I do not like this roster. What's the best way to explain it? Their offense is not exciting. Their offense is not exciting at all. Spencer Rattler, I'm not really excited about. Am I interested? Kinda. But Tyler Shuck, I've already made it clear how I don't like him as a prospect. And running backs are going to be fine. Alvin Kamara is going to be good. And then wide receiver, no. Just no. Chris Olave can't stay healthy. Rashid Shaheed got hurt last year, and he's a wide receiver 2 at best. And then Brandon Cooks is your wide receiver 3. He's washed. I think he's done at this point, personally. So this receiver core is not exciting. Tight end is okay. They got good depth. They got good players, but do they have any stars? I mean, I don't know. I mean, do they? Juwan Johnson's okay. He's good. He's probably a little underrated. But outside of that, Taysom Hill, coming off of an injury, we'll have to see. And then Foster Moreau also has dealt with some injuries. But when everybody's healthy, the tight end group is pretty good. But the defense also still needs more talent. They need a little bit more on the front seven. They just need to continue building there. And I thought they did a good job in the draft addressing that. But they still need more. And with the strengths, I already mentioned a couple of them. We'll break it down real quick. Running back and tight end, already mentioned that. Running back and tight end have good players. They have good depth. And they should be focal points of the offense early on. I think you're going to see a lot more run-heavy, heavy play-action style offense compared to more high-volume, heavy pass, kind of like the Chargers, where you're going to see more run-oriented 12 personnel like the Philadelphia Eagles. And then corner and safety are two strengths of this team as well. I like Kool-Aid McKinstry going into his second year. Alontae Taylor is good. And then safeties, Justin Reed and Julian Blackmon are good starters. They have good players on the front end, or on the back end, I should say, at starting for them. That's what I was trying to say. And so they should be good. The secondary should be good. I think it's probably going to suffer a little bit because of this defensive line. But on paper, they are a good unit. And then you look at their weaknesses. Number one is quarterback, for obvious reasons. I've already pretty much stated everything I need to say about that. But then wide receivers, either they're washed or they can't stay healthy. Either or, I'm not excited about them at all, which stinks, especially for Chris Olave, because Chris Olave is really talented, but he cannot stay healthy for anything, and he's going to play well, and then he's going to get hurt, miss a bunch of time, and then Rashid Shaheed's going to be your wide receiver 1, and at that point, you are struggling at that spot, and they don't really have that much depth either. So then the other one is edge rusher. Edge rusher is just, I'm not excited about it. Your best pass rusher, the Saints, you cannot have your best pass rusher be Cameron Jordan. As much as I love Cameron Jordan, as much as I've loved watching his career and how he's blossomed into one of the best players in the NFL, very underrated in that regard, but I believe he is. He's in his mid-30s now. He's going to retire at any point. He should not be the best pass rusher on your team. Kind of like Brandon Graham in Philly, who was there forever, who was always good and always productive, but at the latter end of his career, he should not be the best pass rusher on the team, and he wasn't. The Eagles had a really good defensive line and really good pass rushers around him, and the same thing needed to apply for the Saints, but they don't have that. Your next best guy is Chase Young, who's good, but is he great? No. And then after that, what do you have? Carl Granderson? I'm not too excited about that. And then defensive line overall is just a weakness. Outside of Cameron Jordan, your starting nose tackle, Devon Godchaux, he was fine in Miami, but really hasn't been able to match his production since leaving. He went to the Patriots after that and kind of busted out. And then I do like their third-round pick, the defensive tackle. Oh my God, I already forgot his name. Vernon Broughton. I like him. He should be in the rotation. I think he's going to end up starting games later in the year for the Saints, as he should. But other than that, like I said, Carl Granderson, he's fine. Brian Brzee, he's fine. They have fine players, and their depth on the defensive line isn't bad at all. But they don't have enough star talent that can really take over football games. They don't have that. And so, for me, that is a weakness. And when your best pass rusher on the edge is Cameron Jordan, that's just not good enough for me. It's just simply not. And so, division-wise, I have the Saints finishing 4th in the division with all being said and done. I said they're not going to be very good, and this reflects that. I don't have them making the playoffs. for obvious reasons. And here is where things might get a little dicey, because my official record prediction for the Saints is shaboom, 4-13. This team is not exciting on offense. Quarterback is a mess. Receivers can't stay healthy. Running back and tight end will be a strength of this team, but do they have incredible star power? No. Offensive line is still going to have its problems. The left side is going to have its problems. Trevor Penning moving into guard, I don't like him that much. Maybe he plays better at guard, but has not panned out so far. That's why they didn't pick up his fifth-year option. And then Kelvin Banks, he's a rookie tackle. He's going to have his growing pains. He's going to struggle, as all young offensive linemen do that start as rookies. They don't play well to start their careers. They just don't. It needs time to learn, to adjust, and grow. And then the right side of the offensive line will be fine. Eric McCoy, Cesar Ruins, and Talise Fawaga going into his second year at his proper position at right tackle. I'm really excited for Talise Fawaga in year 2. But let's look at some storylines for the Saints and why I'm going to be watching them. And number 1 is Kellen Moore and Tyler Shuck. As I knock my script over again, I apologize. The only thing is, Tyler Shuck isn't going to be starting games at any point, but this is a point I'm going to make. More specifically, want to talk for the Giants with Jackson Dart, where it makes a little bit more sense. But when you draft a quarterback in the first 3 rounds, they are doomed to start. Even if you want to sit them, to let them sit, let them learn, or poor quarterback, whether it's injury, poor quarterback play, but in front of them, if you draft a quarterback in the first 3 rounds, they're going to start a game for you at some point in the year. They're going to start. It's a guarantee that they're going to start. And so I expect Tyler Shuck to start games at some point, whether it's Spencer Rattler not playing well or he gets hurt. Tyler Shuck's going to be in there at some point. And so I want to see what he looks like once he gets onto the field. Does he grow? Does he improve? Does he look, as jittery in the pocket when NFL pressure is right in his face and he starts to struggle? Is he going to potentially get hurt again with his injury history? That's something you have to consider. And Kellen Moore, how is he going to put Tyler Shuck in the best position to succeed? He is this offensive genius that did really well with every quarterback he's been with, whether it was Dak Prescott in Dallas, Justin Herbert in LA with the Chargers, or Jalen Hurts in Philly. He's been able to get good quarterback play and coach them up. So what is he going to do with Tyler Shuck to get him in the best position to succeed? And then number 2, the run defense and tackling. Run defense, I've already said enough about how bad it was last year and how much they've invested to try and make it better. And then tackling was also another major issue. These 2 things, with a new defensive coordinator, with a good infusion of youth on the defensive side, they need to be better. They definitely need to be better. And if you want the offense to grow, if you want things to go proper for the Saints and Tyler Shuck, the defense needs to be better. And that starts with having a better run defense, better tackling, and by that point, if those 2 things can be solved and at least be average, then maybe your pass rush will start to grow a little bit more. And other things that help expand your defense and what you can do to opposing teams, it's just going to open up a lot more. So getting this run defense fixed and getting tackling problems fixed are paramount. I want to see them be better. And then number 3, overall development of their youth is going to be really important. This is a team that at this point is in a rebuild, if you want to call it that. I don't think they are. I don't think the Saints will ever get to a point where they're an elite team because they don't have the cap money to do it. They don't have the money to invest into players on the outside. They just cannot do it. And like I said, the GM should have been fired from the Saints years and years ago. It should have been done. He screwed the Saints cap situation. And unfortunately, the Saints aren't going to just decide to be terrible, absolutely god-awful for a couple years until they get their salary cap situation fixed. But I want to see guys like Tyler Shuck. I want to see Tyler Shuck or Spencer Rattler. I need one of those guys to develop and play well. I want to see Chris Olave continue to improve if he can stay healthy. I want to see Kelvin Banks and Talise Fawaga do well. I want to see the young guys on defense. Guys like Vernon Broughton, guys even like Brian Brzee step up and progress. Kool-Aid McKinstry needs to progress. I want their youth and their young players to step up. They need to. That's the only way they're ever going to be good again, is if they can hit on these young players and they can be solid contributors for their team. If not, the Saints will never get out of the situation that they're in. Like I said, they do not have the money to properly invest into this team with free agency and fill in holes with quality players. They don't have the money for that. So they need to really hit on their draft picks and have them play well in order for this team to get somewhere. And so for now, that's what they need to rely on. And so that's what I'm going to be expecting. They need to be better. And then number 4 is Kellen Moore on the hot seat. Because, like I said, the Saints are going to be good. I have them winning only 4 games. Would that get him fired? I doubt it. I don't think it will. I think they're going to take the approach of having some patience. That's why you bring in a young offensive-minded head coach anyways, because while the floor is not as high, the ceiling is much higher as well. So you get a little bit of a trade-off there, and I think Kellen Moore could do good things with the Saints if the quarterback situation can get solved and one of those guys can just figure it out and be that franchise quarterback for them. That'd be great. Much better to figure it out now than later on down the line when you don't have a quarterback at all. At least you have something to work with right now. And then another thing not on the list, guys like Taysom Hill, Demario Davis, Cam Jordan, Rashid Shaheed, Trevor Penning, Alontae Taylor, with a long couple other starters, are all free agents after the year. A lot of these guys are going to leave. So it's going to stink with their last year winning only 4 games. If the Saints want to do anything of significance this year, it's going to have to be this year, because next year, I doubt it's going to be that anyways because of all the players that they're going to lose. But that's for a time and another day and another year. But for now, that's going to do it for me. Hope you guys have enjoyed. If you've made it this far, please consider hitting the like button and subscribe button, as it helps the channel out tremendously. And we're trying to reach 500 subscribers before the end of the 2025 regular season. Trying to hit that mark really quickly. We're almost at 200. You guys are doing a fantastic job. So keep smashing those 2 buttons. Keep spreading the word out. And also, Saints fans, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. You think I'm too low on your team? What do you think of Tyler Shuck? What do you think of Kelvin Banks and the other draft picks? What do you think this team is going to be in 2025? Please let me know what you guys have to say. And then, second to last, make sure you guys follow me on social media, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, all that good stuff. And then lastly, make sure to go check out all my other season preview videos. It's on my channel. They're all there. They're going to be linked in the final end screen that you guys are going to see here in just a moment, as it always pops up. But for now, that's going to do it for me. Hope you guys have enjoyed. And as always, I will see you all next time.